I've been playing board games for more than 40 years, a practice that started primarily with me playing against my brother Russ, who is 2 years younger than me. My sister Net was 5 years older, kind of in a different social strata with that much age difference. She had her own friends. Sometimes she would join us. Sometimes my parents would play as well, but primarily Russ and I were the game players in the Martin household. And we weren't playing to win so much as playing to play. We would take games that had fixed endpoints and just extend them. So Payday, the rules would suggest you play 3 to 6 months. And we would play 20 years worth of Payday, just recording our score and adding it up over time. There's no fixed goal other than just playing. And then at a certain point, we would lose the sheets or forget about it and move on to some other game. And that was that. We used the games as our primary means of interaction, of playing with one another, was through those games. We knew those games so well, the rules just disappeared. There was nothing to them other than the immersion in the gameplay itself. And that's probably carried over into my taste today because that's the type of game I prefer. Something with rules so minimal that they just vanish and you focus on the gameplay itself. Something with very simple, straightforward rules. I can teach someone in a few minutes. We can get into play right away, usually with a short playing time so that we can play again immediately. Because I love the repeated experience of playing a game over and over where you see what works in one game and then you try something else, or you try to hone and perfect what you're doing. And other people learn over time. You learn very quickly through that iterated play. You sort of get to, I want to say, a higher stage of playing, but you have more experience and more idea of what you're doing. You could often play better. So I keep my eye out for games like those. Reiner Knizia does them all the time. I've been doing lots of videos on his stuff. His stuff hits me just right with that sort of minimal, streamlined rule play. But I found something else. As I was putting together the Spiel 19 preview, a game by Marco Teubner called No Return has a little subtitle, Es gibt kein Zurück, which means there's no turning back, which is a funny subtitle given that the point of the game is that you will turn back. The game comes in 2 phases where you are collecting things and then you have to get rid of those things in order to score points. And whatever you have left behind is worth negative points. So the game takes place in 2 parts, collect, and then as soon as you start cashing stuff in, there is no turning back. I guess that's where the phrase comes from. That second part of the game. You have the initial turn back, but then you're committed until the end of the game trying to sell off everything that you've collected. Here's how it works. Here are the components of No Return, 132 tiles. These tiles come in 6 colors, and they are numbered 1 to 11, with each number appearing twice. To start the game, you draw 8 tiles from the bag and put them in front of you so that you are the only one who can see the numbers and colors on them. And then on a turn, you are going to do one of 2 things. You can, if you want, play tiles. All the tiles you play must be of the same color, and they cannot be higher than any number or any tile of that color you already have. So I can play a green 11, and that's it. My turn is done. Maybe I play a 10, 8, 7, and then I draw. So however many tiles you play, you draw that many in replacements. Now that I'm down to a yellow 7, I cannot play yellow 11, 10, 9, 8. If I draw them, they are useless to me. You decide what you want to play, how far you want to go. So for example, I have this, 10, 7, 4, 2. But if I do that, I'm pretty much done with white. So maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I could just play the 10, or do I want to play the 7 as well? How much do you want to play, and how much do you want to filter out of your hand? Let me draw something here. Maybe this time I'll just play the 10, not letting you know I have more, except I told you. A 9 in green. Draw 1 replacement. If you don't have something appropriate to play, or maybe you have lots of singles, or whatever the case is, you can choose, instead of playing things, to take 4 tiles, and it has to be exactly 4, and then throw them in the box. And they're out of play. And you draw replacements. So you must throw away 4, and then you continue on your turn. So maybe next turn, 8 and 7. Draw 2 replacements. Do a 7. You have this slow buildup, although then sometimes you're like 11, 9, 9, 8, 5, boom, 5 tiles at once. And then draw 5 replacements. And of course, now I'm stuck if I draw red that's higher than that, or pink, or whatever that's higher than that, but that's just how the game works. At a certain point, though, you want to stop collecting and you start cashing in. And the way to do that is to discard tiles, again, only of a single color, and you take whatever the sum is of the tiles that you discard, 17 in this case, and you can cash in 17 points from a single color. And it has to be from the bottom up. So I can't choose these 17 out of the middle of the red, but instead I would have to start at the bottom with only that 13, because this is 22, and I don't have enough to cash in for that. But I can cash in this 17 here, and I take these two, and I throw them out of the game, and I draw replacements. And again, I have the same 2 options as before. I can choose to take 4 tiles, throw them aside. Maybe they don't match, they're singles, they're low numbers, whatever the case is, and then I draw replacements. And now I have 20. So, do I have a good 20 to get rid of? Again, this is 22. 16, 15, 15. It's not ideal. You want to be as efficient as possible with what you're collecting, but sometimes you just have to be satisfied with what you can get. So I'll score 16, and then these go out of the game. I don't even need to play this 3 along to score this 16, but I can do so because I don't want a 3 anyway. 3 is not going to do me much good. I want to collect other things that have higher value. So here's 26, and let's take this 25, and then I draw. And this continues until hopefully you score everything that you collected to begin with. However, as soon as the tile runs out of bag, as soon as the bag runs out of tiles, the game ends immediately. And everything that you have collected but not scored, not put aside, counts as negative points against you. So, how much do you want to collect, and when's the right time to turn back? I played No Return 8 times on a review copy from Moses for Log, mostly with 2 players, but also with 3. And the game delivers pretty much what I expected to find based upon a reading of the rules. The game has a high degree of randomness, as you would expect when you are drawing things from a bag. You don't know what you're going to get. You just have to take it and then do something with it. So do I want to flush my hand? Keep trying for something better? I built up a 9, 8, 7 in a color that I haven't committed to yet. I'd love to get an 11, a 10, maybe some more, and just before I really commit. But each time you do, are you losing opportunities for something else? Am I putting things out one at a time, just trying to slowly build up a collection? But that means I get only 1 new tile at a time, which means the odds are less that I'm going to see something that I can really put together and make use of. But if I'm going to throw tiles away, I have to throw 4. Can't be fewer, can't be more. And often you have like 2 tiles that you know are trash. So do I trash other things as well? Every time you throw away those 4 tiles, that really accelerates the pace of the game, because often, at least in my games so far, you don't have that many times when you're playing 4 tiles, either in the first or the second half of the game. So often you're putting out 1 or 2, maybe 3, slowly going through, and then boom, 4 at a time, 4 at a time, 4 at a time. And you start weighing the bag. I don't know if that's legal that you weigh the bag, but that's how we've been doing it. Yeah, maybe it's time to turn back now, looking at what's here. Looking at what I have, I don't have a lot in one single color. If I've stockpiled a whole bunch in a color, meaning probably a color that I can't add to anymore, well, then I'm going to have something that I can use to cash in a lot of points at once. That's great. If I want to keep building, am I just playing 1 tile, 1 tile, 1 tile? Maybe I should just start cashing in and then try to run out the bag as quickly as possible. Because if I've cashed in all my tiles, well, then my whole turn, just draw 4 tiles from the bag and throw them away. That's it. There's nothing else other than putting a fire under everyone else to get done, because soon the game will end. So there's a nice little tension between what you're collecting and when you're going to start handing it in. There's not a super high interactive element other than watching what other people play, because it's just my collection. But of course, it's that standard element of Lost Cities where if someone puts down the handshakes and okay, I'm done with the handshakes, or they put down the 2 and you say, okay, well, I've been sitting on the 3 forever hoping I can get a 2. Now I can just go ahead and play the 3. Although then that telegraphs to them that they can play the 4 if they haven't. So it's got that element to it where you are watching what other people do and trying to use that knowledge to affect what you're doing as well. So it's that indirect interaction, something I love in games where you're playing off your knowledge of what people are doing. And if you're paying attention, you can possibly do it better. So you have this high degree of randomness to the game, but you try to use it to your advantage. You try to make the most of it. I love games like that. I love trick-taking games, and I love Quirkle, and I love all these games where you are just fed something at random, and then you have to do something with it. And ideally, you do it better than anyone else. Funny sort of comparison to No Return, I played a bunch of Quicks recently, another very simple, rules-friendly, rules-minimal game. Taught it to a bunch of people, and I saw comparisons to No Return that I hadn't thought of until I was playing Quicks again. Where in Quicks, of course, you are rolling dice and you're trying to collect numbers in 4 colors, and once you cross off a number, you can't collect anything lower. And that's very similar to No Return, where everything goes down initially. And then when you start cashing in, you have to cash up from the bottom. So the further you go into a color, the more that you try to collect things so you can cash out that color all at once. Well, with Quicks, if you're committing to a color, do I want to commit to it with a 5, which means I'm not going to be able to mark off the 2, 3, and 4. Is it worth it to take a penalty to maybe be able to mark off a 2, 3, or 4 later? Or should I just mark off the 5 and be done with it? Be satisfied. What if it's a 7? I got to start in the middle of a color and just waste half of it? Or I'm going to take a penalty. It's a very simple decision, and yet it impacts everything that follows from that. And No Return has that as well, where I'm collecting something. I could just, I guess I could jump down and just start with an 8, but I'm wasting all these other possibilities. But am I going to throw away the 8? I don't know what I want to do. Again, very simple, easy decisions, right? Except, of course, you don't know what's right and what's wrong until the entire game plays out. You learn over time these little bits of information, sort of the flow and the rhythm of the game. And I feel like I'm starting to get that after 8 plays. I really want to play a lot more. I haven't done 4-player games yet. That's going to change the pace of the game a lot, since you're only going to get roughly a quarter of the tiles in the bag. So how will that affect your collecting? How will that affect things as you see way more tiles out than what you do in a 2-player game on other people's control? That's going to affect what you are going to be able to play. Again, the game is very simple. There's not much to it in terms of rules, but that's good from my perspective, because then I'm thinking about the playing of the game and what I want to do with it, and then we just sit down and play multiple times, and I love it. So, there you go, an overview of No Return. If you buy it, I assume you can still return it.